Heading into game four, the Dallas Mavericks had all the momentum in the world, and rightfully so, given the fact that they were up 3 games to nothing after a game three home win, and the fact that no team in NBA history has ever came back from a 3-0 deficit to win the series. Well, despite that, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and more specifically Anthony Edwards, still remain really confident in their ability to ultimately come back and win this series. And given how the series has went, that's still understandable. You look at game two, where if it wasn't for a ridiculous Luka Doncic shot at the end of the game, it's at least 2-1 heading into game four in Dallas's favor instead of 3-0, or even game one where they were in it until the very end. And what would eventually happen in game four is we would see the best game plan pretty easily from the Minnesota Timberwolves, in my opinion, where they made everything just a living nightmare for Kyrie Irving specifically, where they made a pretty big matchup adjustment, putting Jay McDaniels primarily on Kyrie Irving at the beginning of the game and some parts of the fourth quarter as well. Letting Anthony Edwards take the Luka Doncic matchup. And another big adjustment that I've been calling for since at least game two in this series was for Minnesota to try to force the Mavericks role players to make plays. And this is a great example of that. Such a great textbook possession by Jay McDaniels. Very physical at the point of contact, not allowing Luka to use that ball screen, and is able to keep up with him in one-on-one isolation. And Mike Conley's guarded one pass away, Derrick Jones Jr. And this is what we saw from Minnesota throughout the entire game. Again, stuff that I wanted to see earlier in the series. Mike Conley is not worried about Derrick Jones Jr. He is fully worried about helping out and not letting Luka attack one-on-one in space, where he is legitimately one of the greatest one-on-one isolation scorers in NBA history. Knowing that he has Rudy Gobert behind him, he fully lets Derrick Jones Jr. cut behind his face. Now, he does eventually recover back, but Rudy is able to be one of the greatest defensive players ever and deters a shot at the rim. The Minnesota Timberwolves ultimately wind up getting the stop here. This is what we will wind up seeing throughout the entire game. When Anthony Edwards is attacking early and often and being decisive and efficient while doing so, it just opens up his offensive game. This possession, he reads the defense perfectly, splits Daniel Gafford, is able to get to the floater, which he does take often, and is able to get fouled. This possession, even in early offense, knows what he wants. His athleticism is able to set up his mid-range jumper so nicely, and that's an efficient shot. And when Anthony Edwards is attacking and hitting these shots, he's such a tough offensive player to guard. One of the things that makes the Minnesota Timberwolves defense so special is their versatility, especially with their bigs. With Nas reading his ball screen, they show and hedge out and eventually turns into a switch. But look at how Mike Conley and Nickeil Alexander-Walker are aggressively loading up off the ball, ready to stop a drive and force a kick out. And once the ball gets reset with Kyrie, Mike Conley aggressively loads to the ball and shows help and forces the Kyrie kick out to Josh Green. And look, Josh Green's a 37% catch and shoot 3-point shooter in the playoffs, but that just shows you how much the Timberwolves are willing to let these role players make decisions, whether it's on the catch, attacking closeout, or just hitting open shots. Dallas goes to an empty side ball screen with Kyrie with Rudy and drop, and it doesn't work out here entirely for Minnesota, but Mike Conley's heavy loading to the ball again, like we've already mentioned, guarding off of Dante Exum, and this puts Dante Exum in a position where he has to make a decision. Do I shoot? Do I play off the drive, etc.? Attack this closeout. And that's ultimately what Minnesota wants from this offensive possession. And it doesn't end in the result that they want. It leads to a pretty weird banked shot by Dante Exum. But in terms of the process, this is a great defensive possession from Minnesota. It just shows you, again, how willing they are to not let Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic dictate the game. Now, thankfully for the Mavs, they have Luka Doncic, who's the best playmaker in basketball and probably has the best, what I want to call pre-catch processor, arguably of the past 20 years. And this is a great possession of that. Luke is going to arrive, get this handoff from PJ Washington, and he's going to get this ball screen from Maxi Kleba. And before he even puts the ball down, he reads the floor so well. Sees Jay McDaniels is guarding one pass away once he drives off the ball screen. But he is reading Mike Conley this entire way here. And he knows that with how Mike Conley is already aggressively loading up to the ball, he's going to only need one dribble to make Conley fully commit, and he throws an absolute dart to the corner to Derrick Jones Jr., who knocks down the three. Luka Doncic, like I said, is arguably the best playmaker of the past 10 years. And it's stuff like this is what makes him such an elite offensive player. Now it's time for Dallas to start cooking, especially schematically. To start out the second half, the Dallas Mavericks countered the drop coverage for Rudy Gobert by going to this Spain pick and roll action, which gives Daniel Gafford the wide open dunk. A couple possessions later, same action, and now Rudy Gobert tries to get out of there early, but it's too late, and Luka Doncic is able to get a wide open lay out of it. And this is one of their favorite counters to drop coverage. The Mavs don't have a bunch of stuff in their playbook, but the stuff they do have, they time it up perfectly and they know when to go to it. And it got them 2 easy buckets here. And when it came to countering the hedging from Minnesota, one of the fun wrinkles that Dallas went to was this step up ghost screen from PJ Washington, but to an empty side of the floor. So now PJ Washington is going to catch this. And if he wants to attack this and try to go to the rim, he could. But instead, he has a wide open corner three, and there's nobody over there to bump and rotate and contest this shot. Cat does get a late contest, but if you're Dallas, this is a really quality look, and this is something that I really expect them to go to even more in game 5. Once again, you have to give Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert their props for how they affected Kyrie Irving in one-on-one isolation or in ball screen situations. In both of these possessions, Jaden McDaniels' pressure and how physical he was able to play with Kyrie Irving makes these shots, even especially the latter clip, while Kyrie does blow by McDaniels, the contest from Gobert at the rim, plus the combination of being guarded by McDaniels' physicality, alters the shot here by Kyrie Irving, and he doesn't get the exact look that he wants. Rudy Gobert is a generational defender and deserves his credit. While the Dallas Mavericks are still definitely the heavy favorites to win this series, especially being up 3 games to 1, the Minnesota Timberwolves have a legitimate reason to be optimistic heading into this pivotal game 5. They did multiple schematic adjustments heading into this game that I would be excited about, and I do expect counters from Dallas, but I am really confident that Minnesota, if they continue to play with this level of intensity and decisiveness on both ends of the floor, they can somehow push this maybe to a game 7, but we have to get through game 5 first. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this video. Make sure you guys subscribe and leave a like on the channel. And if you guys want to see more content, follow me on X at Sean_DAVI. Thanks so much for watching. See you guys next time. Peace out.